All right. So what we're going to see here is how we can do a couple really good things if we start to have like an over-the-top move, or if our club face gets very open on the way down. There's a few different ways we can save this, and we'll kind of talk about how that can lead to some really good technique when we're hitting pitch shots, trying to add some spin, and kind of cut across the ball. But when we're doing a full swing or even a pitch shot, we want to make sure that when we get to the top of the swing, that our lower body starts the downswing and that not everything moves all in unison. And there's definitely some benefits of rhythm to have the feeling that everything's kind of going all at once, but we want the biggest primary mover to be our legs. So because our camera angle is kind of low, it's going to be hard to really get some accurate swing plane lines, but just for the sake of it, it'll be important to see. So going back, we have a good backswing where our arms are starting to get extended. We're really kind of reaching back. We can see the arms, starting to already hinge the wrists, but overall, we're getting a nice kind of one-piece takeaway to load up onto this, left side in a good way. Our club face, if we were directly down the line, you can kind of see how upright this is, and so we know we're going to start already getting this club a little bit open on the way back. And which isn't the worst thing if we can get to the top, and this is where that lower body starting the downswing can kind of save a position like this, where our angle's not the best here, so we can't probably make too accurate of an assessment of it. But if we can kind of take a peek at, where the club face is in this position and how it relates to the arms, we actually have a pretty neutral position here where we can attack from the inside or the outside. Nice thing here is we have a good rest set and overall a great turn. So in transition, what we're going to see is when we get to the top is that everything starts to move all at once. And so we have this, downward motion, which is great, but then because our club is so far pointing towards the inside, and so when I come down, what you'll see here is that the butt of our club is now pointing on this side of the ball or underneath the plane. And so this is just getting too steep. And at some point, this is going to have to shallow out. We're going to have to come down. And so there's a bunch of different ways we can do this. But the easiest way to do that is when you get your lower body to go first and your upper body stays still, naturally it's going to shallow the club out. And so that's not only is a good power source, but that's the other part of it, is it gets us into a better plane where the transition of energy can go from our legs to our upper body and our arms and eventually the club. And so creating a good sequence and tempo will be important. And as we come down, because everything moves at once, we start rotating, which pulls us really hard left. And when we start to rotate what ends up happening is the club starts to move forward. And so the more we rotate left in this part of the swing, the closer the club is going to get towards the outside of the ball. And so this starts to introduce some striking issues where we can start to get some shanks, and as well as, depending upon the tempo of it, if we're having to have a handsy release, we're going to start missing the ball thin, fat, short. We're pretty much all over the place at this point. So coming in, we're very steep. We're on the top part of this plane, and we can see how, if we get rid of these, how open our club face is. And so our face is pointing well to the right here at this point. And so the nice thing that we see here is actually this really cool technique where if we feel like we're going really long and left and have a very minimal handsy release, we can actually get some good spin and result here. And so what it looks like here at impact is actually a pretty decent position. We're very tall, so we've kind of lost a lot of our spine angle. We kind of have this kink in the top, so the force is probably not going through our body the best way to optimize it, but overall, it's a pretty stable position. And as you go through, the hands kind of have this nice passive feeling where they're coming low and left, and just now we're starting to rotate the club face. And so we do a really good job from a position that could end quite poorly to actually get some decent consistency. And this technique to have your hands in that position as you go forward is such a fundamental one for pitching and accuracy with your distance control with your wedges, that a couple of changes in probably the sequence of just winding up and getting the body to initiate the swing properly will be able to get this player in a much better position to be able to strike without having to come from so far the inside and kind of feeling that chopping position.